In this WrestleTalk news, Edge may be a free agent very soon, Matt Riddle breaks his silence, plus our review of Dynamite Holiday Bash.
Support WrestleTalk!
With Mania season approaching, a return for the rated R superstar Edge has widely been assumed by fans and touted by news outlets, with recent reports suggesting that Edge and Finn Balor could be set to resume their rivalry inside Hell in a Cell at the Royal Rumble. This would lead many to assume that Edge is gearing up for his 4th calendar year back as an active performer. Well, unfortunately, this might not be the case after all. According to Fightful Select, when Edge returned back at Royal Rumble 2020, he signed a 3-year contract with 5 matches a year and 25 appearances. However, these appearances have been proven to be inaccurate, as he competed in 16 matches total across 2021 and 2022, although it is possible WWE and Edge renegotiated at some point over the last few years. Despite this, however, it's unclear whether the time on the deal has also changed over time. As Fightful notes, if the length was correctly reported, then that deal could be up soon. However, Fightful also notes that it is possible Edge's contract was temporarily frozen due to his injury layoff, with him missing 7 months of action in 2020 due to a torn triceps. If that isn't the case, then theoretically Edge could become a free agent very soon. What would you like to see Edge do next? Let us know in the comments below. Moving on to one of the past few weeks' most dominant stories, that being the suspension and current status of Raw's Matt Riddle. Following the December 5th episode of Raw, Riddle was reportedly handed a suspension for a second wellness policy violation and given the rehab or fired ultimatum by WWE, in which Riddle chose the former. Since this, however, things have been far from quiet on the Riddle front, with Riddle's personal life dramas revealing the concerning nature of his recent behavior. Despite reportedly being romantically involved with adult film star Jordan Max, Riddle has now been pictured with another adult film star, Misha Montana, something that Max addressed via her Twitter. In her post, Max called out Riddle for cheating, while revealing that Riddle and Montana had been doing drugs together after Riddle had told Max that he was quitting using drugs. Concerningly, following Max's post, another recent former partner of Riddle, Daniela Petro, tweeted a video accusing Riddle of sexual abuse, something she says she informed WWE of and called on the company to fire him. In response to the allegations and uncertainty surrounding his status and health, Riddle posted to his Instagram the following: "I've been working a lot on myself lately and have been saying no and setting boundaries for the first time ever, and certain people aren't happy about it, but I couldn't be healthier or happier. Thank you for all the support." As of yet, WWE have not responded to the situation publicly. As always, make sure to stay tuned to WrestleTalk.com for any updates. Now for an always appreciated update on AEW's resident benchwarmer, Miro. With Tony Khan and Miro seemingly at loggerheads over the former TNT champion's creative direction, Miro looks set to see the rest of the year on the outside looking in, something that the man himself has been vocally frustrated about. However, with Miro reportedly under contract until early 2026, according to Fightful Select, an exit of the company may be unlikely, as TK will be well aware of WWE's likely interest. But what of Miro himself? Is he angling for a return to his former employer? Well, according to his wife, former WWE superstar CJ Perry aka Lana, this may be the case after all. Speaking with Mike Wenmacher, Perry revealed that WWE may in fact celebrate Rusev Day once again in the future. Rusev Day will never die. It's always going to be around, the kids are going to want to sing it, and I'm sure it will make a return in WWE at some point. Rusev, well, whatever he shows up back in, whatever frickin' name or gimmick or character he returns as at some point in WWE, is going to be iconic. You hear that, TK? Hopefully 2023 can prove to be the year of Miro, or Rusev. Ollie is off today and Luke's fam ain't feeling too hot, so you've got me doing the Dynamite review today. Rejoice, the third option is here. Now hot tag to me. This episode of Dynamite Holiday Bash began with a Ricky Starks promo, and while I'm normally a big fan of starting a show with a match, I think having Starks appear immediately to kick off the show was a good way to pick back up his momentum after his loss to MJF last week, where he said pretty much exactly that. His momentum is not over, there will be a rematch with MJF down the line, and he'll be ready when it comes. But for now, he's going to work his way back into a world title match. This was exactly what it needed to be, and it was perfectly acceptable. But then, the segment became great when Starks was interrupted by Chris Jericho. Jericho put over Starks, saying he's $1 million talent, a future world champion, and that's why he should join the JAS. Starks' retorts here were wonderful. He, of course, rejected the offer and insulted all of JAS in line after line, where just when you thought he was done, he'd come up with a new insult. The J in JAS might as well stand for jobbers. He called Sammy and Daniel Garcia jassholes. It's just wonderful. He said Jericho used to be built like an air fryer before he got himself lean. There was just so much off-the-cuff creativity, or at least what seemed like off-the-cuff creativity, that it built spectacularly. This set up a match between Starks and Jericho for the January 4th show, and after the rest of JAS tried to beat up Starks, he was saved by Action Andretti, and this whole segment just left me with a big smile on my face. And speaking of smiles on my face, next up was the next installment of Elite vs. Death Triangle, this time in a no DQ match. This was more very fun and fast-paced action that we've come to expect from these teams, with dashes of comedy thrown in there. Penta used a Christmas tree as a weapon. Brandon Cutler got beaten up and had a stare down with Alex Abrahantes. But the most important spot in this match was Nick Jackson attempting to hit a super kick, but missing and instead kicking a chair that was set up in the corner, injuring his ankle, something he sold for the rest of the match. After the ring bell hammer has been such a crucial part of the feud thus far, and in this match it was allowed, they paid that aspect off brilliantly with Omega kicking out of a shot from Phoenix. And after some more brilliant spots, do you really need me to list them, the Elite got the win, but at a cost. Nick Jackson has that ankle injury that he could barely walk on, and after the match, Death Triangle attacked and busted open the Elite, with Phoenix desperately trying to stop them. This match was for Elite to continue the series, but paint them as serious underdogs for the final two matches. MJF cut a promo calling Bryan Danielson a gutless coward for running him out of the arena last week, and after Action Andretti got fireballed in the face backstage, Bryan Danielson came out to the ring to respond. Danielson spoke on his relationship with William Regal, and while he might understand that Moxley, Claudio, and Yuta might not have the same relationship to Regal that he does, he has to be by his side. And he fires up, telling MJF that there are consequences to his actions, and he will make him pay for what he's done. So naturally, Ethan Page came out to interrupt. He said he got to the finals of the AEW World Title Eliminator Tournament. He made it to the final two of the Diamond Ring Battle Royal. Danielson didn't do either of those things, so he doesn't get to jump the queue. And after some weird back and forths about Danielson being a vegetable and Stokely Hathaway being bald, it set up a match between the two next week. Samoa Joe cut a nice promo against Wardlow, warning him that the Christmas cheer ends when it gets to the match with him. Hook squashed Exodus Prime, which is a hell of a ring name, and on the Tron, the Firm are beating up Jungle Boy, so Hook walks off. Jon Moxley had cut a promo earlier in the show about his opponent tonight, Darius Martin, being injury-prone, and how that mirrored another certain injury-prone cowboy, which was a nice way to keep that place spinning. Moxley then beat Martin pretty decisively. Sonjay Dutt did a rap about the Acclaimed, and Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh were there. I thought it was fine, but I have a message from Luke here. Hold on, direct quote. The Sonjay Dutt rap was incredible and the highlight of the entire broadcast, all in caps, by the way. I disagree. Powerhouse Hobbs gets another wonderful chapter in his book of Hobbs. I like this a lot. The Guns then faced FTR. My first note for this match was, I swear to God, if the Guns win. The Guns won. The story of the match was fine. FTR was still recovering from their final battle match against the Briscoes, and the Guns took advantage of that, meaning at a crucial point, Dax couldn't hit a pile driver, allowing, Austin? Colton? One of them to get the roll-up win, while cheating with the other Gun holding their arm for leverage. Unlike what seems like a fair amount of people, I don't hate the Guns, I just think they're sports entertainers in a wrestling company. They don't fit. They're perfectly passable at their role. Comedy goofs to get beaten up a lot, but their role should not be beating FTR. Rick Ross was then here, so this is a 10 out of 10 show. He called Keith Lee a big motherfucker. 10 out of 10 show. Keith and Rick Ross called out Swerve, and Swerve eventually arrived and told Lee he was going to do things on his own time now, and he should have eyes in the back of his head. Enter Parker Boudreaux and some other lad. They beat up Keith Lee, and while the end spot of them laying Lee onto the steps and holding a cinder block on his chest that Swerve stomped on from the top rope was very cool, this felt like a massive dud of a debuting new faction. For starters, Swerve doesn't need these guys to feel like a threat, and they all felt incredibly mismatched and like they don't fit together. together, kind of the same problem that the Firm has. This didn't feel like the debut of an important tag team that are now aligned with Swerve to make us say, wow, what a threatening trio. This is a heel having a couple of goons to get beaten up instead of Swerve and to lose matches in his place. I don't think this worked at all. But hey, guess what? We then had my favorite thing on the show, which just so happened to be the main event. Jamie Hayter versus Hikaru Shida was an absolute banger. I'm very glad the women were given this chance to prove they can be the main event, and boy howdy, did they deliver. The match started real physical, with both of them exchanging strikes incredibly aggressively, and only escalated from there. Suplex from the apron to the floor, a whole bunch of near falls from a knee strike plus Falcon Arrow combo, a sliding lariat, and even interference from Baker and Rebel didn't end the match, with Shida dispatching of Baker with the kendo stick, which then led into another wonderful near fall from a rolling powerbomb. Shida tried to hit the katana, but Hayter passed out the first time to dodge it, and then intentionally dodged it the second time to hit her short arm lariat to retain. But man, the pace of this match was impeccable. The crowd built and built and built with every spot and every near fall. There was never a dull moment, and the action peaked right as the match finished. This was a perfectly structured match, and you couldn't have asked for more from Hayter versus Shida. There was a post-match brawl between Hayter, Rebel, Baker, and Shida, Saraya, and a returning Toni Storm, which was fine, probably could have done without it, but it didn't take away from the match at all, and it was a fantastic end to the show. The two most important bits of the show, the start and the end, they nailed. There was also Elite versus Death Triangle fun, some good promos, and some other stuff I wasn't as huge of a fan of, but when you have a main event of that caliber, it really boosts the show up. This was an easy high 4 out of 5 show that was almost a 5, if not for Guns vs FTR and Swerve's lads. We've got our next chapter of our end of year content over on the WrestleTalk podcast channel, where we have our top 10 matches of 2022. Give it a watch now.
With 22 points across 8 nominations, but no top level. Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch from WrestleMania for the Raw Women's Championship. Easily the best women's match across WrestleMania weekend. And for my money, I think I said this on the over the weekend. I thought it was match of the weekends.